Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Safeopedia webinar. My name is Samantha from Safeopedia, and here at Safeopedia, it is our mission to support you, our EH&S professionals, operational folks, and any safety-minded individuals with free education, tools, and information. Today, I would like to extend a huge thank you to all of you for doing a great work on keeping our workplaces safe on a daily basis. We are proud to present Protecting Frontline Workers, PPE Needs in Utilities and Transportation. This Safeopedia webinar has been made possible today by PIP Global Safety, a preferred manufacturer member of AD Safety Network. AD, Together We Win. Today, Andy Morgan and Brian Lieberman are going to discuss the critical role of personal protective equipment in utilities and transportation sectors with a special emphasis on respiratory, eye, and head protection. With that, I am very grateful to have you all sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation. All right, Andy and Brian, let's jump into it.
Well, thank you, Samantha. I appreciate the warm welcome, and I would also like to thank everybody that took time out of their day to show up and go through this material. We truly appreciate your time and attendance. My name is Andy Morgan. I'm the National Respiratory Sales Manager for Fort North Respiratory, so I'll be covering that portion. Really today, what we want to do is just give you an idea of some areas and jobs where you'll find respiratory hazards within primarily utilities, but we'll talk a little bit about transportation as well. So, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide, can. On the agenda today, at least for my part, we're going to just talk about some OSHA regulations and citations. We won't get super heavy into that. I understand that most of you as government entities are not subject to OSHA fines, but based on OSHA regulations, how to properly protect your employees and just care for your employees, we'll kind of discuss some of those things. Common types of municipal utilities, just to kind of have our bases covered of the areas that we're going to talk about, specific hazards within that, and then we'll talk about respiratory selection and some solutions as well. You can go to the next slide there, Brian. So from an OSHA regulation standpoint, I know that most of the government municipalities are not subject to OSHA fines, but we do want to cover just some of the risks to keep your employees healthy. So in this scenario, what we're talking about is anytime there would be an airborne contaminant, we could talk about silica within a construction area or paving, or even chemical hazard within a wastewater treatment facility. Either way, because there is a respiratory hazard that's present, what OSHA says is that there needs to be you need to provide proper protection for that hazard. Once you're in that, you also are subject to a written respiratory program, which outlines some of the things through that program with respirator selection, medical evaluation, questionnaires and fit testing. If you have emergencies procedures, how to properly store and maintain that equipment, what your cartridge changeout schedule will be, the air quality, which really depends on or determines what the contaminant is and how to protect against it. And then there's some specific dependencies as well that cover those individually that kind of help walk you through and guide it. We can also be a resource for those things as well. So, Brian, you can go to the next slide. So one of the things that we will talk about is silica specifically. A lot of municipalities and entities will do road work or curb work, things like that. So anytime you're cutting or grinding concrete, that creates an opportunity for there to be respirable crystalline silica in the air. So much so that OSHA came in and created some specific mandates around how to handle that. They're very easy to find. We also have those available. So if this is something you're interested in knowing more about, please feel free to reach out to any of your either to Safeopedia that can contact me or to a PIP seller, and we can get you the information. It's just too much to cover there within this. But what I'd like to highlight specifically here is that silica has really been on OSHA's radar since about 2016-ish area, where they just recently made some really specific qualifications around those due to the extreme uh, hazard that silica places both on your physical health, but in the work environment, but also because of the number of employees that were are now exposed to respirable crystalline silica, and then again just the health impacts of that. So Brian, you can go to the next slide. Some of the 2024 OSHA citations, again, I know as government entities, you're not necessarily subject to a fine, but just really like to highlight this just from a standpoint of, across all sectors, both general industry, government entities, and construction. Respiratory protection is always usually in that top 5, and it was last year. A lot of the reasons why respiratory protection is specifically cited is things like not properly not fit testing on the proper cadence, not providing proper medical evaluation questionnaires for your employees before they're part of that program, maintaining a written respiratory program, things like that. And then on the right-hand side is just a list of some of the willful citations that you can see. Willful would be, knowing that there's an existing hazard present and not doing anything about it, essentially. Luckily, for the most part, anything other than respirable silica was there as a top 10, at least for respiratory. Some asbestos in there too. If you guys are in, a city that has older buildings, things like that, asbestos can also be a concern, which came in there at 6. So, Brian, you can go to the next slide. So different types of utilities that we're going to talk about today: wastewater, so it'd be sewer systems and manholes; ground maintenance, like pools, buildings, construction, whether that be repair or new. In some unique situations, you'll have power generation, like coal, nuclear, natural gas, and then auto body, where you would see, some paint, fiberglass. So auto body would be, some of those larger entities like Denver, Chicago, that may have, specific divisions that just repair police cars and city vehicles and things like that. So Brian, you can go to the next slide. Within wastewater, the couple different segments that we look at. Obviously, for wastewater, you would have both the clean water and then the sewer system side, or the dirty water side. The biggest concern, or the hazards that you're going to see most from a respiratory standpoint, are going to be within, the dirty water or the cleansing side. So wastewater coming in that needs to be cleaned for reuse, that's where you're going to see more of the chemical hazards than you would see on the clean water side, certainly. But some of those potential hazards within that would be bioaerosols, bacteria, funguses, different viruses. Obviously, dealing with wastewater, that's pretty obvious. And then within that, because of the environment, that can create toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide or methane, chlorine for the cleansing process, things like that. Exposure to these different environments without the proper respiratory protection can create some just temporary symptoms like coughing or wheezing, or even chronic symptoms like asthma or lung damage, different infections, things like that. Another example would be manholes. Potential hazards found in there would be, oxygen deficient atmospheres, or oxygen enriched atmospheres. That's why it's always super important to do your air monitoring before you get in, understand the environment that you're about to enter, and thus understanding the proper protection that you need to have. And then also within that, could be flammable and toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide and methane. Brian, you can go to the next slide. From a maintenance and auto repair standpoint, so for maintenance, what we look at again is things like pools. So if there's a city pool that needs to be maintained within that, the typical method for cleaning a pool, assuming it's not a saltwater pool, would be, mixes of chlorine or organic compounds to help clean that out. Exposure to those can cause, some irritants, again, temporary hazards like they've actually named it chlorine cough, so create a situation where you have a bit of a chronic cough, and then also exposures to mold and bacteria can be fairly common. Just obviously working in a wet, damp environment. Um, from construction standpoint, so we would talk about water-based and water and solvent-based paints that can create different vapors and gases as those are emitted, depending on, if it's an open air or an indoor environment, the exposure or the concentration of that exposure can change. So always just super important to understand the environment that you're going to be working. Outdoor likelihood of exposure that's going to be harmful, not as great as indoor, obviously, but definitely worth monitoring and checking. And then we talked about silica dust in a fairly great detail. We actually do a silica specific training if that's something that you're interested in. Again, just not enough time to go through all of that today. But we can dive deep into that if that's something that you're interested in. But again, silica is created when concrete is cut or crushed. So think about your road maintenance, anything like that. And silica can cause silicosis, which is also linked to lung cancers and things like that. We touched a little bit on asbestos, and that's where you would find, or in a restoration standpoint. So maybe it's a historical old government building or something like that, where you have to go in and restore it rather than build new. So in there, you may find, asbestos, especially in older buildings in the Northeast, super prominent. Or if there's a situation where there was a natural disaster or just a broken pipe or something where you have water, or for whatever reason there's a damp environment that's created mold, that can create or where mold was created, that can present a respiratory hazard. Black mold is obviously one that we talk about most, just being a fungus that can cause reactions both to your respiratory system and to your eyes as well. Auto body, pretty specific. Anytime you guys are painting, there's isocyanates or two-part paints that are going to create a respiratory hazard. Paint overspray. Obviously, this is assuming that there's not a situation where that air is being vacuumed out. But again, I've talked about it. Just understanding the environment in which you're working and the exposure that you're dealing with. Can create a situation where you need more PPE protection if the engineering piece doesn't doesn't pull that out. Sanding on fiberglass, obviously there's creates a respirable silica in that fiberglass that can be harmful to you. And then welding, if there's a bent frame or something like that, then you have to provide a weld to create that, or to provide the fix. Anytime you weld on steel, creates a toxic fume that can be very hazardous if you breathe that in as well. So, Brian, you can go to the next slide. Let's talk about respiratory selection a little bit here too, so we can go. Yeah, so honestly, depending on your exposure, what you're working with, light construction. I always recommend that silica to use a P100. But depending on your exposure, you can use an N95. Light paints, again, light construction, wood dust, things like that, disposable respirators can come into play. You can go to the next slide there, Brian. We'll talk about reusable respirators here real quick. From a reusable respirator standpoint, North offers a full full line of offer or full offering of both half mask and full face mask with any cartridge that you would need to cover those hazards. At that top line, you see the magenta, which is significant or which signifies a particulate hazard. So for any of your, again, wood dust, asbestos, mold, silica, those are going to be covered underneath your P100s. And then on the bottom line, you see where we have more of our chemical-based cartridges. That's where you're going to get into, paints, solvents, chlorines, things like that. You can go to the next slide there. 7700 series mask, great half mask. Very, very comfortable, works well for both hot and cold environments. Brian, I think if you hit it again, maybe a picture will come up. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. 7700 is a premium grade silicone, works really well, especially if there's any outdoor work, again, for hot and cold environments, whether you're sweating or whether you're sweating because of a hot environment, it won't slide around your face like a value TPE will, like you see below. And even in cold environments, won't make it as rigid. Which would create, creases where could be an opportunity for a respiratory hazard to come into play. Both fantastic options if you are only needing if you're only needing respiratory protection without eye protection, or working with safety glasses or something like that. So, Brian, you can go to the next slide. The RU8500 is available for you. Again, not to get super salesy, but if you're in a situation where you need to communicate with your employees using two-way radios, we do offer a capped-on speech diaphragm on that that will help clear and concise communication. And then the bottom mask, the RU8800, if you get into an environment where you think, man, I really need an extra small or an extra large mask to help properly fit test my employees. Maybe they have, a slimmer face or a more round face. This is really kind of our fit testing catch-all. So, Brian, you can go to the next slide. Much like that, go ahead and click again. Everything will come up that we can talk about. Much like our half masks, we offer a full line of full face masks. Starting from bottom to top in your value series with a 5400. Great for those construction environments where you may be doing heavy painting or maybe have to, toss it after the fact, any remediation, things like that. That mask can be fully rebuilt. The RU6500 is where we get into our silicone-based seal. So again, if your people are wearing these all day long, need that extra comfort piece, that silicone will provide that. Also comes in 3 sizes, both small, medium, and large. And then our premium series mask in the 7600, that's where you would get into the speech diaphragm, again, just for clearer communications. And it does have that double silicone flange for comfort. I should mention too that the 7600 and the 5400 both come in welding version. So back to that auto body thing, if you're looking for an all-in-one welding solution, those would be your masks. And again, both the 7600 and the 5400 can be completely rebuilt. You can go to the next slide there, Brian. All right, and that's where I leave you from respiratory protection. I'm gonna kick it off to Mr. Brian Lieberman and have him walk you through his portion of this training.
Hey, thanks a lot, Andy. That's a lot of really good information. For everybody online, good afternoon. My name is Brian Lieberman. I am the Senior Customer Marketing Specialist in charge of the product lines for eye, head, and face, and also eye wash. What I'm going to be talking to you today is about proper protection for head and eye in the utilities and transportation industries. We're going to go over OSHA just like Andy did. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just know that the OSHA rules really just say protect your employees and workers from potential risks. What they really rely on are the ANSI standards to ensure that you have the proper protection in the right place. So we're just going to go over some terminology at the beginning. So both ANSI and CSA describe the type of impact that you're trying to protect against. Type 1 is from the top of the crown. You see the arrow pointing directly on top of the hard hat, while type 2 adds some lateral protection, meaning that there's some sort of interior foam or interior workings within the hard hat that provides some protection from a lateral impact. ANSI and CSA also define the dielectric class protection for each of the hard hats or helmets. Class E provides the most protection, up to 20,000 volts. So you see the guys there working up on a utility pole, they're going to require the Class E protection for dielectric protection. Class G is one step down. It provides some protection, just up to 2,200 volts. And then Class C means there's no protection from the dielectric or electricity going through those wires and stuff. So if you're in the utility industry, you're not going to be asking for Class C type head protection. Now, we do get a lot of questions. Hey, Brian, I need a hard hat. What do you got for me? I think that's a great question. I can't answer it because I'm going to dive down a little bit deeper into the weeds to find out exactly what you're looking for. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, is certification needed? What type of certification, ANSI or CSA? What kind of dielectric protection do you need? We just went through those 3 different classes. If you're in the utilities industry, most of the time it's going to be E. Or if you're not working around wires or electricity, maybe we can find something else for you in a Class G or Class C. What type of protection do you need? Is it just type 1? Is that going to be the most hazardous? Is most of the impact going to be from the top of the crown? Or do you feel like maybe on a construction site or something, there might be some lateral impact, so you want type 2 helmets? We're finding that it's very popular in the construction industry in both US and Canada right now, where we're being asked for more type 2 head protection. And then some other questions we'll ask is, what kind of environment are you working in? Are you exposed to sun or rain? Are you working outdoors? Is there going to be slight debris in the air? Maybe you want a little bit of extra protection that requires a full brim type of hard hat. Or if you're not in those type of environments, maybe just a regular cap style helmet will suit you. We'll also ask, do you work in a high heat environment, such as a foundry? If you need that extra heat protection, you don't want the hard hat melting on you. So we do have some protection in our lineup that will offer you the heat protection needed in those type of work environments. And then, like everybody, everybody multitasks these days. Are you going to require some accessories? Are you going to need face shields? So we do provide accessories for the hard hats that can easily convert the worker to, turn the hard hat around, have a face shield attached, and start their cutting or grinding operations. Or are you going to be using welding equipment? Again, the welding helmet will be attached to the hard hat. You flip it around, and suddenly you can start the welding process. So all these type of questions, once we go through this, nice easy list, we can really narrow down the type of hard hat that you need to protect your workers. So here you see the various options for head protection. The first one that you see is the P2 that would be sufficient in a high heat environment that we talked about. That is made of a fiberglass blend and therefore only has Class G dielectric protection. All the other hard hats that you see on the screen are made from an HDPE material and have Class E dielectric protection. The E2 that you see next on the screen, made from a HDPE material, is only ANSI certified at this time. So we are going through testing right now. We have seen some positive initial results, but as of right now, the E2 is only ANSI certified. We hope to have CSA certification within the next couple months. But every other hard hat that you see on the screen has ANSI and CSA certification. And then everything that you see on the screen has that type 1 protection. So we've gone over the type, we've gone over dielectric protection, and we also gone over certification just within this lineup. But we do have a new full brim fiber metal safety helmet. And what that does is it gives us the type 2 protection that, like I said before, is being requested more often. And you see it, we accomplish that lateral protection by putting a non-Newtonian foam liner around the hard hat. And what that does is provide a really good protection against lateral impacts. Non-Newtonian foam, it's great to look up. I highly suggest you Google it. Look how that material gets harder the more that it's impacted. So it's really fascinating to look at that, and we thought it was a great addition to our helmet lineup. We do have all the marketing collateral. If you're more interested in the Type 2 climbing style helmet, it comes in both full brim and no brim. So if you're interested, just send a request in. We'll send you all the collateral information related to it. Now, turning to eyewear, we did come out with the Avatar Plus over the last year and a half, 2 years. The latest addition to this lineup is the OTG. You may have seen at the beginning of the presentation, I wear reading glasses. So if I needed some safety eyewear, I'd be looking at the OTG. We first introduced this style in Europe, and it's been so popular that we had to bring it over here to US and Canada. But the key point here is, no matter what the work environment, you need to have the proper eyewear. And the way to get to that is to ask questions. Do you need a spectacle, or do you need a goggle or a sealed eyewear enough? Or like me, if you're wearing glasses, do you need the OTG version of something? So really, just like hard hats, it's great to say I want safety eyewear, but it's not a one size fits all proposition. We really need to dig deeper into the work environment of the end user to find out, what safety eyewear would work best in their situation. For sealed eyewear, if you're looking for it, we have the new Tirade S4040 Plus, just came out last year, has improved anti-fog properties. So fogging is the number one issue that we see in eyewear. People in changing environments, going from inside to outside, or go cold weather to warmer weather, or maybe there's physical exertion on their at the work site, and it causes them to sweat, and then their glasses fog up. Make sure that the workers have an anti-fog coating on their safety eyewear. We have Hydra Shield on most of our lines, but the Tirade here has a proof coating than what we had in the past. And then the sealed eyewear itself, it protects against impact. It's ANSI certified, ANSI NCSA certified. Protects against impact, protects against the wind. If the wind is hitting your eyes, you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. It protects against airborne debris. And then also we have the gray version that you see on the screen that helps assist workers outdoors from the sunlight and the glare. Now, one of the other lines that I represent is the eye wash line, and we all understand accidents happen. You can have all the greatest PPE, but maybe they're taking it off, or the workers taking it off their head, or for safety eyewear, they're taking it off their eyes for a second. Accidents happen. We try to create our PPE to be comfortable so the worker doesn't have to take it off during their 8-hour workday or however long they're working. But we do understand that accidents happen. So we highly recommend make sure that, and this is OSHA required, that there's a primary eye wash station on most sites, whether you're working in an office building that has hazardous materials or on construction sites or pretty much everywhere, eye wash is going to be required. Now, the ANSI standard for eye wash is that it's within a 10-second walk from the biggest hazard. There must be, the eye wash station must be activated within 1 second, and it must run at a particular flow rate for a full 15 minutes. So the two eye wash stations that you see on the screen are the PureFlow 1000 and the Fennel 2000. They meet the ANSI requirements for a primary eye wash station. And then for secondary things, because construction guys, if they're going up high, or utility guys that are going up high on a pole, they're not going to want to carry around these big green monsters. So there's bottled eye wash, when we would consider that a secondary eye wash system that can be very mobile, very transportable. You put the 1 ounce or the 4 ounce in your pocket just in case something happens when you're not in a location that has a primary eye wash station. So accidents happen, just make sure that your workers are safe at all times, and that if something does happen, they can get to the um, proper eye wash station in time to help them out. That's all that I had to speak about. Now, I believe there are some questions out there.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Andy and Brian. We do have some questions here. What is the impact of the Honeywell PIP integration?
Brian, you can take that one if you'd like,
Yeah,
or I can.
I'll take that. That is a
Yeah, go
great
ahead.
question, and one we get a lot. Uh, I think that what Andy and I have shown is that the brands that were formerly under the Honeywell name that are popular in the industry, the North brands, Fiber Metal brands, Fendel brands, they're going to continue. There is no slowing these products down. PIP is very excited to have these brands under their belt, and they will continue like nothing has ever changed, and they haven't changed. We're going to continue to produce PPE that, for my products are ANSI and CSAS certified, that protect the workers, that help the workers in case of an accident, and provide the best protection on a work site.
Fantastic. Good to know, because my stepdad makes me bring a case home to him every time I go to visit. So if he lost
Right.
those glasses, you'd be getting some emails for sure.
Happy to send
Yeah,
some
the
samples
other
out.
thing the other thing that I'll add to that, just specifically from a respiratory standpoint, is that there will be no impact to our part numbers or TC approval numbers through NIOSH. So anything North Respiratory that you have now will continue to exist and will have the same approval as it does today. There'll be no impact to that.
That's actually really good information. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, and that's a really good point for eye, head, and face and eye wash. Same for us. We're trying to make this as smooth as transition as possible, so all the SKUs will be the same.
Fantastic. All right, now I know the answer to this, but I want everyone else to know the answer to this. So, do you have field support available for technical support or expertise?
Yes, we have. Well, currently we have around 60 regional sales managers that dot the country, and about to have a whole lot more once we're fully integrated over into the PIP global safety side. So we have a wealth of knowledge all over the U.S. and Canada that can support that. On my respiratory team, we actually have respiratory specialists, so people that are specifically trained and set up to help with respiratory protection. And we also have fall protection specialists. I know we didn't talk about fall protection today, but that's often, an area where people have specific concerns and would like, manufacturer support on. So yes, we have plenty of support. Either Brian or I, depending on the area of concern, can point you in the right direction. If
Okay,
you send us an email, we'll make sure you're taken care of.
fantastic. Now, I'm not sure if you know this off the top of your head, but do you know what the typical lead time or turnaround is for logo services?
Yes, if it's for a hard hat, we know that we've had issues over the past year or so with logoed hard hats, but we're back to a 2-week standard lead time for logoed hard hats if it's a logo that we already have in the system. If it's a new logo that we have to create, we'll go through the logo approval process, meaning we'll, create, approve, send it out, get people sign off, bring it back to our facility and start producing. That is a 3 to 4 week lead time. So for logos we have in the system, 2 weeks. For new logos, 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, Brian, Andy, before we wrap it up for today, is there anything you want our audience to take away from today or to keep top of mind?
Andy, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I can. I would just say that there's rarely a question that we can't find an answer for. At least I haven't seen it yet, and I doubt that it's never been asked. So if you have a concern of a respiratory hazard within your work environment and you aren't sure how to solve it, we would love to be a resource for you. just don't hesitate to reach out. I always say, if you have a question, the first thing that you should do is seek help, whether that's at least from a professional standpoint. I guess you could take that either way. But if there's a question that you have, reach out to us, reach out to your distributor network. That's my favorite part of this job is helping solve people's problems. So don't hesitate to contact us with anything that may be on your mind. And thank you.
And I will, yes, thank you. And I will also ask questions. I think I've stated a couple times during my presentation that to get the right PPE in the worker's hands, we need to ask the questions of the work environment that that worker is in. So just like Andy said, just ask questions. And if you say, hey, Brian, I need a hard hat, that's a great conversation starter, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions after that. And that's what we need to do to get the right PPE in the hands of the workers.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to reiterate what both Andy and Brian have said. Please, please, please ask those questions. I know sometimes we are fearful and fumbling our questions, so make sure that you reach out. Their emails are on the screen right now, or as they said, reach out to your nearest distributor, get in touch with the PIP Global Safety team, but we're always here to help, so make sure you're making those connections and asking those questions. So Brian, Andy, a huge thank you to you being here today. I want to thank PIP Global Safety and AD Safety Network for allowing you to be here today. And of course, I want to thank all of our dedicated safety professionals because without them, none of this would be possible. So thanks again. Take care and stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.